Interface Video presents Fairhope Hospice Today. Brought to you by Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and the Frank E. Smith Funeral Home.
Hi, I'm Dawn Walker from Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, and today on Fairhope Hospice Today, we are with Rick Snyder. Hi, Rick.
Hi there. I was wondering what I was doing here. I'm going to be on TV. Wow.
Rick is a longtime volunteer and community educator here at Fairhope Hospice, and we just wanted to start out by talking about a few things about our Veterans Program with Veterans Day coming up in November, and just start by sharing what drew you to this work and why it's so meaningful to you, Rick.
As far as doing the pinning, we started that, I think, in 2016, and it's from the Department of Veteran Affairs. They gave us a little, I would say, template of how to begin it, what to do, how to end it, and what would be required. And we have kind of a script, and the nature of what we do is so flexible. We don't follow a literal one after another. We pin the people where they live. It could be in a nursing home, it could be in their home. We had one in a teardrop trailer. We had a couple in a pole barn, the hospital, the ICU, the Pickering house. Wherever the person is, we go to them. And I found that pinning the veteran is so profound. It affects so many people. I don't think I've been to one yet where there haven't been tears, if not out and out crying tears. It's so moving, and it's basically a very simple thing. And you know, when I got into this, it seemed like it was just one more thing that we did. You just read a little script and that's it. But the first couple of them, I found out that the family, you know, the children that are watching, the attention being poured on their dad, the spouse is seeing her husband being honored. And what's interesting, probably I know over half of them, I keep track of our pinnings. Last year in 2024, we had 65 pinnings, and over 30 of them, they had passed the same day we did the pinning. Mm-hmm. And so they're generally in a deep sleep, you know, in a coma at the end of life. But the old expression is once a Marine, always a Marine. Once in the military, they're always in the military. And just recently, we had a man, he was a kind of movement in his bed, and it's like, they call it the terminal agitation, you know, burning up energy. And when we had read the proclamation, fastened the pins on his garment, the veterans gather at the bedside, and they call attention. And he got rigid. His daughter just started crying. She said, Dad hadn't responded, literally days, weeks. And as soon as he heard attention, he got rigid. And he held that pose after we did the salute and completed it. And we left after a little bit of fellowship afterwards with his daughter. But he held that attention. And it had such an effect. And I remember one of my early ones. It was in way down Perry County. It's just a few people there. His daughter, I think her friend, and maybe a few other neighbors. And when veteran saluted, he had been laying still, and you watch his hand come up about 45 degrees, just fell back down, and his daughter started crying. She goes, he was such a military man. This has meant so much to him.
Now, what all does the veteran pinnings involve? How does it go when you go to the home? Who goes to the home for the pinning, and what do we take with us?
Okay, it basically, you know, the whole thing starts. I get a call from either one of the intake nurses or Twyla, or volunteer director, because when the intake nurse goes to where the person lives, talks to the family, they ask just so that they need VA benefits or whatever. So they'll ask if they're a veteran. And if they say yes, they ask if you'd like to be honored with a military pinning. And I don't know what the percentage is, yes or no, but we do quite a few pinnings. And what I'll do is call the caregiver, you know, the daughter, whoever is managing the care, the family member, and work out the arrangements of when you would like to have it. And so everything's settled. We have a branch of service pin, a little American flag, and then we have a ribbon, a cloth ribbon. And it's Star Spangled Banner and all that. So once they remove the pins from the garment, they can put it on this and mount it on the wall. But we'll begin by just talking to the family, and finding out the background. If the veteran is coherent and can communicate, we'll talk to them. Generally, they're not. Generally, the procedure happens right towards the end of life. But I'll tell them a little bit about my dad. He was in World War II. He landed in Normandy, and he said the only good part of that was it was July 17th. And he said that's a good day to come into Normandy because he missed all the hoopla. But they made Bailey bridges, so he would repair bridges so the tanks could go by. He saw combat. My son's active Coast Guard, and so I talk about my son. And the one thing I emphasize about my son is so many veterans say, we don't deserve this. We weren't in combat. We didn't do anything. Well, what we're honoring is the fact that they took that step forward. They raised their hand, they signed a paper. That's what we're honoring, because my dad said it was real easy once you join the military. You're done. You don't have to think about a thing. They'll tell you. And my son, being in the Coast Guard, he was a recruiter, so how safe can that be? Well, he has 20 years in and a lot of experience, and now he travels around the world teaching countries different maritime law, how to work with the United States, more of an ambassador, if you want to call it that. But he's been in places surrounded by razor wire. He's been met at the airport with 2 armed guards who don't smile. Yeah. He said they don't smile. Goes to a hotel, with heavy armed and protected. And so when you join the military, you don't know.
Right.
And we were talking to one guy, he joined in 1962, which he thought he was safe. Well, Castro started a little ruckus, and Fidel Castro, and the Kremlin and everybody got into it, so we had the Cuban Missile Crisis. Yeah. Well, and he was called to active duty and headed to the Gulf Coast. He goes, wait a minute. Yeah. So that's what we honor. And then after we do the pinning, we read a certificate and gather at the foot of the bed and salute. And that's when the tears just flow. And afterwards, if it seems right, we stay and talk. We've been in the house for over an hour.
Yeah, I like, Rick keeps really great notes here, and there's some good notes that say things like, by wife's request, a veteran was pinned twice, once at home, the second pinning 3 months later at the funeral home. The second event was almost spontaneous and beautifully combined with the VFW funeral detail at calling hours. So there's so many beautiful details for all of these veterans that we keep track of. How many Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and where they occurred at, whether it's at the Pickering House, in their home, at a facility, at the funeral home. It's just really amazing how many lives we've touched. And that, like Rick said, a lot of these veterans, it's end of life, and maybe they're not coherent, but the people that it affects around them.
Oh, yeah. And the end of life is a completely unique section of life. It is not what we know. Yeah. The end of life is completely different. And, reading this thing here, we pinned him. They lived in Hideaway Hills, and the wife was just overtaken. When we came in, and she said, all the effort you people are putting into this. We had 4 volunteers, and his nurse, case manager came in, social worker. She cannot believe we put all that effort into it. And she said, can we pin him again so the family can see it when he had passed? And I said, sure. And that's one of the things we do in this is shoot from the hips, because that's never happened before, and I didn't call anybody for permission. That needed to be done. And since the VFW was there, I told them what we do, so we just put it right together, and it was just wonderful. And that happened once before. I went to a funeral to present and do the post-mortem pinning at the casket. And when I'm there, and during the visiting hours before the service, here comes an Air Force retired, and he had all the cabbage. He was an officer, and he was dressed to the hilt, and I go, we're going to have to work out the details. So what I did was our small ceremony, fastened the pin. I didn't fasten the pins. I gave the pins to the daughter. And then as I was finishing, he began, and he did the slow march up pivot, the slow march over, the slow salute. Holy mackerel. That makes me cry.
Right.
But we work with whoever is there. And there's never two alike. It's such a basic format. But we adapt to the family, we adapt to the whatever is going on. One time we pinned both the father and son, and that was cool. I always carry an extra of the pin and the service medal, because I always drop and lose stuff. Trust me. So
Always prepared.
Yeah, always prepared. And as it turned out, they said, well, our son is so, whatever the conversation was, I said, well, we can pin him too.
Absolutely.
So the son pinned the father, then the father pinned the son. It was amazing. But again, that was spontaneous. So the pinnings are very good. They are military, but at the same time, they're not rigid.
Right.
This is the end of life. This is completely different. But we do it 24 hours.
Okay.
7 days a week.
7 days a week, so anytime. If you have a loved one, if you're on our services, you always call the Pickering House. That's your main line, the 740-654-7077.
Yeah, and they'll call us, because sometimes you might have it scheduled for the next day, and if they start to decline fast, they'll call, and I send out a one text to the 10 members and say urgent.
Urgent, yep.
Do it now if you can, and as they show up, depending on how many people say it, then we just go right ahead and do it. And I did one pinning by myself, so we can get it out on the next segment.
Okay.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah, and we can talk also about veterans that aren't necessarily on our services.
Yeah.
Around Veterans Day that we pin here coming up.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we'll be right back. We'll take a little break, and we'll see you soon.
We want everyone to feel comfortable and safe that you pick up that phone, you make that phone call, and let us just guide you and lead you where you want. And then you can make an informed decision about what's best for you and your family.
The Frankie Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our two locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
I can actually dream again, because there's things I was figuring I was going to give up being able to do. And one of the things I love to do is I love to go in the canal sites, the old canal sites where the locks are, climbing up and down and stuff. I can do that again. I feel like there's nothing I can't do.
Greetings from Fairfield DD. As we embrace the back-to-school season, we welcome the arrival of autumn and our cherished fall customs. Join us for Football Friday nights and the county fair. While you revel in the colorful season, let's also reflect on the positive changes we aspire to witness. At Fairfield DD, our goal is to foster a vibrant community where individuals lead lives of greater independence and make meaningful contributions. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram to discover more about our unwavering commitment to the community.
At Fairfield Federal, we believe true prosperity is shared. For 130 years, Fairfield Federal has invested in the community that built us. From supporting businesses that employ our neighbors, empowering the initiatives that strengthen our community, and serving generations of families, Fairfield Federal is proud to share this milestone of progress with our hometown. Fairfield Federal is your place for checking, savings, and home loans. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 402612.
Okay, we're back with Fairhope Hospice today. I'm Dawn Walker, Marketing Manager here at Fairhope, and we are back with Rick Snyder. Hi, Rick.
It's good to be here. I enjoyed
Yes.
the first half. I learned a lot. I didn't know you do a lot
Yes,
of
I did
pinning,
too.
so, yeah.
So now we're going to talk some more about veterans pinnings, and not only the We Honor Veterans pinnings that we do with our patients in their homes, wherever they may be, but we do a lot of pinnings and recognition in the community around Veterans Day and the week before Veterans Day. And Rick is a huge part of that, and it helps my team and me significantly in that. And you said something in the last segment about a veteran saying, I don't deserve this because I wasn't in combat. And we had that situation in a facility last year. We were pinning residents at a long-term care facility last year. There was maybe 10 to 15 of them. And we go through, it's a really nice ceremony. We have a nice little reading that Rick has to read because I cry every time we read it.
So do I.
He can at least finish it. And we go around and we read their name and their branch of service. And we get to this one gentleman, and he just takes the pin and the certificate. And then at the end, I don't know if it was you or Marcy Beal.
I think it's Marcy.
And he said, she said, are you sure afterward you don't want to be pinned? And he said, no, I don't deserve to be pinned. All of these other men here fought and were in combat, and I never did. He did IT, or back then, whatever their version of that was. And he just cried because he felt like he did not deserve to be pinned. And we ended up pinning him after the ceremony, and he did take the pin, but that was really an eye-opener to me. And after you said that, I thought of that specific incident.
Well, and another thing about the chance they took, we pinned a guy. He was in the Vietnam era, but he was in Germany. So he felt all these guys in boot camp, so many of them went to Vietnam. He says, who knows what happened to him? I went to Germany, and he said one afternoon we were in Stuttgart, or a German city, and it was around the car. We were having a good time. There was about 8 or 9 of us. And he looked at the watch, I'm busy, and he took off. And 10 minutes later, the car blew up. It was a car bomb. And he would have been killed. So there he was in Germany where he's safe, and the other guys were killed. So you don't understand that. And and you're talking about not being honored. The one guy we did have, I always tell this story. It was at Olivedale. And after the ceremony, he came up and shook my hand. He was a Korean War veteran. And he had said, I wanted to thank you for that. And this is the first time anybody looked me in the eye and shook my hand and thanked me specifically. He said, I've been through a lot of speeches, a lot of rah-rahs. Nobody looked at me, and that's one of the reasons we do this at these nursing homes. So we look right at them and take, if they want to talk for a few minutes, go right ahead.
We, the week of Veterans Day, whenever that falls every year, me and my team, we schedule veterans pinning ceremonies at every facility in our territory. And it does not matter if that veteran is on our service. We have a ceremony for all of them, and they all get pinned. And that means a lot to us. We have a couple volunteers that join, and it is very, very special, whether there's 2 veterans in that building or whether there's 20 veterans. We have a really nice ceremony at Olivedale that's coming up on November 7th on a Friday, and Freedom's Never Free is included in that. We do that. That is the first weekend in November, so that would be on a Thursday, that pinning ceremony with the posting of flags. But that just really means a lot to us. And are there any other memories that have really stuck with you? The We Honor Veterans pinnings? Or?
And some of finding out what they did. We always ask what they did, and some of them shrug. One guy was in charge of the emplacements around Washington, D.C., and he got an urgent message on 9/11 to shoot everything out of the air. He said, everything, no questions, shoot everything. He goes, I don't know if I could have done that. And he said, I don't know how to feel about this. I hated that the plane hit the Pentagon, but at the same time, we would have had to shoot them down if they were on our side of the building. He goes, I don't know how to feel about this, And one guy we had, it was kind of interesting. He came into the war late, and he was shipped to the Pacific Theater, and his duty was on this island. He said the island would hardly seem like bigger than a football field. And there was a big black shack, and we had 4 people, me and 3 others on each side, and we were ordered to shoot to kill within a perimeter. And he said, no question. So we did that for about 2 or 3 days. And then there was some bombers there, and they were moved to the far end of the island, and they were assigned to go with those bombers on the other end of the island. And they put something in the plane, and again, shoot to kill, no questions. And he said they took off after a day or two, and when they came down and landed, the guy in the first plane slid open the cockpit and said, "We just dropped the A-bomb." And they didn't know what an A-bomb was, or a B-bomb, or a C-bomb. And so he helped guard the plane. We've had people in Iwo Jima. We've had all sorts of different duty stations.
This is my third Veterans Day with Fairhope. And one of the biggest eye-opening things I've seen in the last 3 years are the decline in World War II veterans. We did not pen one World War II veteran last year.
Well, he's
did you have one
this year.
Okay,
yeah.
so we didn't have one in any of our facilities.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and that was a big eye-opener to me, was just the, you know, losing the veterans that we're losing.
I hate to say this, but I hate it. Half the people are on service are younger than I am. I'm going, is it getting hot in here, or is it just me?
How do you think the work that we do with veterans connects with Fairhope's mission?
It does, because what we do is we comfort everybody.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people brought the war with them.
Yeah.
One of the people I had talk about World War II, he was from Iwo Jima and served on Iwo Jima. And they said Iwo Jima might have been the bloodiest modern war ever held, or battle. Everybody was blown apart. Machine guns, bombs, bazookas, cut in half. He says it was horrible. Well, he didn't say it. One of the reasons I accepted him as a volunteer, he was very hard to get along with. By then I had some experience, and it would be unpleasant for some of the volunteers. So anyway, his wife would go grocery shopping the first time. I understand you were at Iwo Jima. Bad place. That was it. He never looked at me again. I made 2 or 3 visits, and I always go to the funeral of the people I've been assigned. So his funeral visitation was going to be on a Wednesday afternoon, and at that time I was a full-time employee. I never do it, but I think God was with me. I decided to take the afternoon off. I went down to the funeral home, pull in the parking lot, nobody's there. It was like 3 o'clock. I figured it was a 2 to 4, I'll go right in the middle. The parking lot was empty, and I figured, okay, well, I went to the door to find out what my boo-boo was, and the guy opened the door, and I said, "I'm here for the Joe visitation." He goes, "It's down the hall to the left." I said, okay. So I went down to the left and went in, and back on the side was a casket with his wife at the foot of the casket. I was the only person to come visit the guy. I go, holy mackerel. He had that war the entire span of his life.
Yeah.
He was just bitter, and I'll never forget that. And that's one of the things I like about Fairhope. We don't go into any judgment at all. We've had people on AIDS patients. Well, some people have cancer, he had AIDS.
Right.
And we don't differentiate.
Right.
I just love what we do, because it is so open. And the veterans as well, they have a lot of war with them.
Yeah.
And we respect that, and we adapt to it, if you want to call it that. And also what I like about it is, for the family, at this stage of life when people are kind of getting away from the family. I don't know what to say to my neighbor who's dying, so they just don't do it.
Right.
So the families get isolated, and the pinning brings people in to bring attention to the person who is at the end of life.
Yeah.
And to thank them for what they did. And like I said, so many people have not. And so many of the veterans have done everything. We had one guy just recently. He was at his bedside, and I said, "Now, I told Earl, we're going to salute." And he's starting to stir in his bed, and he took his feet down. His wife said, "You can't do that." And he says, "I am, by God." And we said, "We'll help him if that's what it takes."
Yeah.
And he got up, and he stood there and, and plopped back down. We don't say no. At the end of life, it's a completely separate part of life than what we're used to.
Yeah.
And that was so important to him. And that's one of the reasons we do this. Nobody else would have. You can't stand up.
Right.
You can't do that. What if?
Right.
He's got 3 days to live. What if? So what we do for everybody on service, especially the veterans, especially what they've carried their whole life, we honor that, and we do everything we can to respect it. And like I said, and you mentioned 24 hours, 7 days a week.
7 days a week.
They don't have a calendar. They don't have a clock.
Now, how many guys are in your group?
It
For your
was
veteran pinnings.
They peel off pretty quick, and I understand it. We have a core of 5 of us, and we have some new volunteers. And it's really, there is a break-in period, because you don't go into a home, you don't go into a something and salute. You have to read the room. Is it happy? Is it sad? Is it sullen? And then know what to talk about, know when not to talk about it. So there's some finesse, and it can come in spurts. One time we had 3 dons I was made aware of within 10 minutes. 2 of them were Don C's, and one was like a Don P. 2 of them were Don Smith. There's a Don C. Smith and Don P. Smith, and I'm making these up, the names, but there's a similarity. And this guy was Don some other, anyway, and they were all on a Saturday afternoon. So that wasn't in the book on how to do pinnings, you know. So we basically broke it up, and one group did 2 of them like earlier, and then that one, and 2 of them were at the exact same time.
So how many of you typically go to a pinning?
It goes anywhere from, I've done two that I know of that were sad I did by myself, and usually there's 2 or 3 to do that consistently. And on a nice Sunday afternoon, we have all 10. Yeah. Late at night when it's raining, and it does it, and people have their lives to do. Yeah. So, but I remember I pinned this one, and it was just sad. His family left. They didn't like to be when he was dying. He was a guy. I came in and did the pinning. It was urgent because he was actively dying, so it was too late to call any of the other people. So, but anyway, did I answer your question?
You did. I think it's great what you guys do. You have a pinning today after this. Yeah,
in fact, if the audience wants to come with me,
I think it's great. You know, we hear it from the community, we hear it from the patients' families, how meaningful that is.
Oh, it is.
When I come up to the Pickering house from my office, I'll come up to the front desk, and Becky will have the certificate and the pin ready to go. So I'm like, well, I know Rick's going to be here sometime today to get that. How many pinnings do we do, you think, a week?
Well, it spurts, but in the early part of the year, we had none in about a month. That we do in 2023, we had about 35. In 2024, we did 52. Well, let me get years anyway. 52. Then last year we did 65, and this year I'm going to.
I think it's an awareness on our staff's part, you know, for social services, for the families to know that it's a possibility for this to happen as well. Like they need to let them know. Yeah,
and when our staff sees it, then they realize the impact it is, what it has on people. So I had something profound to say. I can't think of what it was now. But the pinnings bring such a, what it is, this I did all the way to the very end. I'm having my brain fade. It was, the pinnings bring such an importance to the family, and I hear about it in fact, just yesterday I worked the front desk. And somebody came over, you pinned my dad. And, you know, we had a nice conversation about that, and they talked about the long-term effect it has had on everybody. And we had one pinning, and the pinning, I'll make this quick, he was coming in from the West Coast, and he coming in and his brother were at odds their whole life. And this is it. He had to make up, drop it, you know, forget everything that happened. And he came in, and it was quiet because they knew that, and the man, veteran was dying. And so his brother came in and sat in a chair, and we did the military pinning, and he stood up he was going to salute, and he came around and saluted, and then went down, and then he sat in a chair and just stared at his brother and was holding his hand, and the place was quiet. There must have been 10 family members. There was 4 of us in there, and it was quiet. It must have been 5 minutes. We knew what was going on. And nobody interfered. We sensed that he and his brother were talking to each other. It was absolutely tremendous.
I think all of these things.
I got a million of them.
I know. Well, thank you, Rick, for sharing your heart and your service today. It's awesome. Rick and I are very close. Marketing people. I appreciate Rick so much. So thanks for listening today. Now let Rick end this.
And remember, celebrate life.
Thank you.
Interface Video presents Fairhope Hospice Today. Brought to you by Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and the Frank E. Smith Funeral Home.